Hello everyone, it is Friday, the first Friday of September. It's Insta Live on Fry, and this is Audrey Button from Safe Harbors of the Finger Lakes. I use the pronouns she, her, hers. And we're gonna, start off September by talking about setting boundaries. And, the really important thing about setting boundaries, it goes along with self-care. And if you didn't see our post for September with the schedule for Insta Live, it does say, it is Self-Care Awareness Month, but it's also Suicide Prevention Month. So all the topics that we will be doing this month are really focused around those two things and how important those things are. So if you haven't checked out the schedule for the rest of the month, please be sure to do so. I believe, and I might be mixing these up, so don't quote me on these. Next week is domestic violence and mental health, and then the following week after that is we're going to talk about burnout, and I think the week after that is mental health and sexual assault. But if you haven't, and I'm actually not 110% sure, but just check out our schedule. It is on our Instagram. And so with that, we will go ahead and kind of dive into things. And just before I get into the discussion about setting boundaries, I just like go over a couple household items. I always like to give a content warning, as some of the stuff I'll be discussing, may be sensitive to some. So please, please, please take care of yourself. However you do, we were just talking about how self-care is really important, and it's Self-Care Awareness Month, so make sure you are taking care of yourself, okay? And the best way to take care of yourself too. So hopefully, after talking about setting boundaries, that could also be something you can implement in your self-care as well. And then just another quick thing, a disclaimer, the views and opinions expressed in this video are not necessarily those of Safe Harbors and the Finger Lakes, but of those in the video. Thanks for the shout out, Sarah. Thank you. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. So to get into boundaries, I know we've talked about boundaries before as a part of a healthy relationship, having those boundaries and respecting those boundaries, but what does that look like really? And we're kind of going to take a deep dive into that. I mean, I could spend forever to talk about this. And actually, we just made a TikTok today about what boundaries may sound like. And so if you haven't checked that out, we did share on our story on Instagram, but it's on all of our other social media platforms. And if you don't follow us on TikTok, definitely check us out on TikTok. So with that, we'll get into boundaries and what that might look like. So boundaries is just how it sounds. I mean, physically, it could be like a line or a fence or something that's creating a clear separation between two things or many things. But in terms of relationships, boundaries help define, what you're comfortable with and how you like to be treated by others. So you're setting these clear lines, not literal lines, but this is something that you're okay with. This is how, you're, want to be treated, and all of that good stuff. So boundaries are super important for our self-care and well-being, but also for healthy relationships as well, okay? Because if we feel good, hopefully everyone else that, is in a relationship with us feels good as well, okay? And these boundaries can be set with anybody. And hopefully you have boundaries with most people, if not, definitely everybody, because you're self-respect is super important and people should respect your boundaries, okay? So, for example, you may have boundaries with your partner. You may have boundaries with your family, especially different family members. You may have different boundaries. Same with, a friend, coworker, a peer, wherever it may be, you have boundaries with those people. And like I said, they might be different for every person. And that's okay because you have a different comfort level and trust with each person in your life, okay? And that's completely normal and definitely okay. So boundaries can be, for multiple things. There can be verbal boundaries, there can be emotional boundaries, physical boundaries, digital boundaries, etc. Anything that is going to keep you safe and feel respected, okay? So, and like I said, boundaries might look different for each person in your life. My boundaries, for example, maybe with my mom, are definitely a lot different than the boundaries maybe with my coworker. And that's because, I've known my mom. I definitely feel comfortable around my mother. And maybe, for example, I don't, feel the same way about, not that I don't like my coworkers, but I might have completely different boundaries just because I haven't known them as long. Maybe there's some stuff I'm not comfortable doing around them or okay with them doing with me. And that's okay. And, it creates for a safe environment for everybody if everyone feels safe and respected, okay? So it's okay that your boundaries are different with every person in your life, okay? So a big thing with boundaries is communication. So it's a very important aspect to a healthy relationship is communication, but it's also, important to use communication to discuss those boundaries and state your boundaries to those people, okay? And the big thing is, in a healthy relationship is respecting those boundaries. And that's even better, okay? So if boundaries are never clear, or you're having a hard time understanding, it just doesn't maybe make complete sense to you, ask questions, get asking those clarifying questions. So maybe I understand that you don't like such and such, or I'm having a hard time understanding what this boundary is. Whatever it may be, you should ask those clarifying questions before making that person uncomfortable or overstepping their boundary. So if you're not sure, the best thing is to ask. That goes to that communication aspect, okay? So boundaries can be healthy and unhealthy. So what does that kind of mean? So a boundary becomes unhealthy is when it's intentionally causing some sort of harm, not literally physical harm, but also emotional harm as well, mental harm, whatever it may be. It's causing harm to that person, or it seeks, to control somebody else. That's when it becomes unhealthy. So, for example, this is just a general example. Maybe my boundary is I'm hanging out with my friends a few times a week. Okay, great. But my partner says, you can't hang out with other guys or girls because I can't trust you. That's unhealthy. My partner is trying to maintain control over me and deciding who I can and cannot hang out with, or maybe trying to isolate me. That is unhealthy and a completely unreasonable boundary. Okay, my partner should respect that I have boundaries and I want to spend time with my friends. Because they're a very important part of my life, okay? So that's when a boundary would become unhealthy, is if it's causing harm or some sort of, they're trying to seek that control over that other person, okay? So how do you set boundaries? And it could be, in the moment that something makes you uncomfortable, and that's when you set your boundary, which you should, right? As soon as possible. I'm speaking too quickly. I'm getting caught up in my words. So as soon as possible, set those boundaries. So if you're trying to set boundaries with someone new in your life, or you just need to set boundaries in that time, make sure you define that boundary. So identify the desired boundary. So, for example, I don't like it when people, I don't want people texting me after 10 p.m., whatever it may be. That's my boundary. I identified it. Communicate. So say what you need. I would like it if you didn't, if you needed to contact me before that would be great. But I try not to answer my phone after a certain time because I'm going to bed. I'm trying to wind down for bed, whatever it may be. Maybe I just need some away time from my phone. That's okay. So stay simple. Don't feel like you have to over-explain your boundary. Maybe you don't have to explain yourself, that's your boundary. They should respect it, okay? Especially if it's a healthy boundary. If it's an unhealthy boundary, they might question it a little bit, which hopefully they will question it if it's an unhealthy boundary. But, keep it simple, to the point. You've stated what it is, why you need it, and then also set those consequences if people don't respect your boundaries or they overstep your boundaries. Why it's important, because maybe I don't answer my phone after 10 p.m. because I'll have a hard time sleeping after that, and then I'll be tired. And then, it leads to a whole another pile of issues for me. If someone's not respecting or pushing that boundary, what can you do? And I really like to emphasize this point, especially if you're in a very unhealthy or dangerous relationship. You need to be really, cautious, and yourself the best. You know yourself the best. You know your safety, and what's safe for you. So just keep that in mind. So depending on the situation and what is safest or best for you, if someone's not respecting or pushing that boundary, you might need to remind them of your boundary. Maybe they just forgot. Maybe they just need to hear it again, whatever it may be. And this is obviously just multiple examples, and depending on your situation, whatever is safest and best for you. So you could also maybe tell them how that makes you feel. Remind them of the consequences of not respecting your boundary. maybe walk away, leave, or disengage respectfully. Try your best to remain calm. Maybe you just need to step away, okay? Or set the phone down, hang up on the call, whatever it may be. Just do it as best way you can. You might need to ask for help if it's, especially, if it's unsafe, or you just need a little assistance from somebody else, maybe asking for help from a professional, even like us. That might be an option. And just don't give up your boundary. Obviously, your boundary is important. Don't give in for them just because of who they are or they keep pressuring you. They should be respecting your boundaries, and that's extremely important. And like I said, if it's a dangerous or unsafe situation and someone's setting unhealthy boundaries with you and not respecting those boundaries, make sure you seek help, especially if it's dangerous. We want to make sure everyone stays safe. So you can always reach out to us. Even if it's not to that point you're having a hard time with boundaries or just want to, learn more about boundaries, definitely reach out to us. So you can always give us a call at our 24-hour hotline, which is 800-247-7273. You can always check out our website as well, which is www.shflny.org. So that was like a brief overview of setting boundaries and why it's important and what to do if someone's not respecting those boundaries or pushing those boundaries. So, thank you all so much for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Make sure you tune in next Friday as well. All right, thank you.